Hi everyone, I'm Excel and this is Psy335, that's Developmental Psychology 3. We're going to look at a second topic today, which is physical and mental development in adolescence. And this is a continuation from last week's topic, or from the last topic, which is the first topic, which was on development in adolescence. So, like we said last time, adolescence is a period of significant development, beginning with puberty and ending in the mid-20s. This phase involves profound changes across biological, cognitive, psychosocial, and emotional domains. Adolescence comes with a lot of changes across so many domains. We're looking at main four, which is biological, that's the body, the brain, cognitive, the brain, psychosocial, that's mind, behavior, and society, people around you, and how you interact with people around you, and emotional, which is the emotions. So adolescence involves a lot of changes in those four areas. As with the psychosocial domain, personal relationships and settings also change, with peers and romantic partners becoming more central during adolescence. Now, adolescence is characterized by significant development in cognitive and communication skills, with rapid increases in processing speed between the ages of 5 and 11, followed by a slower rate between the ages of 11 and 18. How do you in my hand? 1, 5, 3. Okay. So that was just for fun, by the way. But in adolescence, there's like a period where the speed at which you process things rapidly increases, and that's kind of between the ages of 5 and 11. Then it still keeps increasing, but then it gets slower between the ages of 11 and 18. So just keep that in mind, because once again, adolescence is characterized by significant development in cognitive and communication skills. This happens at a fast rate between the ages of 5 and 11, and at a much slower rate, or maybe not much slower, but a slower rate between the ages of 11 and 18. So there are three areas that are relevant for adolescent development, and those are executive function, social cognition, and language development. Executive functions, these help control other cognitive abilities, including self-control, abstract thinking, time management, and sequencing. These skills, that's self-control, abstract thinking, time management, and sequencing, these are essential for planning, problem solving, and self-monitoring. While some of these aspects of executive function will stabilize after pre-adolescence, that's pre-adolescence should be prior to puberty, their full integration continues to develop over time. So these parts just keep developing over time, which is why I hear people say that that all these like 16-year-olds that are like babies, that they are like their brain isn't yet fully developed. These areas of their mind, self-control, abstract thinking, time management, and sequencing, these are all controlled by the prefrontal cortex, which is like around the front of the brain here. So that part isn't developed until like your mid 20s or so, or early 20s. So that's why in the note here it says that the full intuition continues to develop over time, because truly it does. It's not fully developed until quite a while after adolescence. Social cognition, our next area, refers to the mental processes that are involved in social interactions, such as recognizing emotions and understanding others' thoughts. This is the theory of mind. And the theory of mind is basically the ability to infer the mental states of other people. Now, the theory of mind, which is once again the ability to recognize emotions and understand people's thoughts, is most developed by pre-adolescence. So before puberty, by the time you're like in primary school, we're talking like years of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-ish. Whenever you start puberty, or whenever you finally get to like the age of adolescence, by this point you can already like understand emotions, you can understand you can understand people's mental states. You can also you also have some executive functions, like I mentioned earlier. There's a bit of self control, there's some abstract thinking, a little bit of time management. It's not fully developed, but there's like a semblance of it there already. So with social cognition, even though theory of mind is already a bit developed by pre-adolescence, the ability to recognize emotions continues to improve into later adolescence. Growth in social skills may also be influenced by general cognitive improvements such as better memory, processing speed, metacognition, and knowledge. Once again, the growth in social skills may also be influenced by general cognitive improvements such as better memory, processing speed, metacognition, and knowledge. So that's on social cognition. Now to the third area, which is language development. Language development during adolescence includes the use of more complex sentence structures and an expanding vocabulary. These improvements are closely tied to advances in working memory and executive functions, like we mentioned earlier. All these three areas are interconnected. Executive functions, social cognition, and language development, they're all interconnected. So the improvements in language development or the improvements in languages also tied to your improvements in executive functions. It's also related to your improvements in social cognition. These are all tied and related. Um, High level language skills also rely on social cognition, as understanding and interpreting language often require one to take perspectives and understand inferences that are being made. So to understand people like to understand like what people truly mean that you have to understand like understand their perspective and their inferences. For example, one thing that I haven't quite understood but I noticed that it's common is that among Yoruba people they'll be like come and eat. But they don't actually mean come and eat my food. They're just it's kind of a way to greet from what from what I understand. And as a child, you might have actually gone to eat with them, not realizing that they actually did not mean to that you eat with them. During adolescence or during adolescence, you kind of learn that they don't actually mean to come and literally eat with them. It's just a form of greeting, and I think that they say when they're eating and someone passes by. So you kind of learn to like you kind of learn the inferences and you learn to understand their perspective. Um, Environmental support also plays a key role in refining language abilities. By the way, that's another fun thing to know. So there's also brain development during adolescence. Parts of the brain develop the prefrontal cortex, hypothalamus, amygdala, the likes. So the brain development during adolescence supports improvements in self-regulation, emotional control, planning, and organization. Like I said earlier, in executive functions, this is still under executive functions, and these changes contribute to better decision making and problem solving skills. So that's on the first half of this topic. Now we move on to psychosocial development. Alright, so under psychosocial development, adolescents work towards understanding their identity and developing independence. In this process, they figure out who they are, their role in the world, and how they can influence their surroundings. Social and emotional development becomes increasingly complex and requires the ability to integrate multiple perspectives and navigate intricate social situations. So this gets complex. Social and emotional development becomes complex, and it requires them to integrate multiple perspectives, like people's perspectives, their own, the world's perspective, everything, and also navigate intricate social situations. Now, as adolescents grow, they develop a deeper understanding of themselves and their relationships, helping them move toward maturity and self-direction. Now, under psychosocial development, we have about in this note we have about three sections. We have identity development, we have social identities, and we have self-direction. With identity development, this is basically where they answer the question, who am I? And this is typically the central task of adolescence, figuring out who you are and figuring out your place in the world, and also developing a stable sense of self. In early adolescence, teens start seeing themselves in much more complex ways, but their self-image can feel a bit scattered still. By middle adolescence, they may notice contradictions in how they describe themselves. They may say, "Oh, I'm shy, but I'm also outgoing." Like you've heard it before, like, "Oh, I'm rather shy, but I really like talking to people." And then I know I went through that, like noticing contradictions and differences in the way I describe myself. And then as they grow older, as adolescents grow older, they learn to make sense of these differences by considering the situation. Young adulthood offers more chances to explore career paths and relationships, and this helps to build a strong identity which is linked to greater well being. So, if you take anything away from this, take away the facts that under identity development, it's basically answering the question, who am I? And in building a stronger identity, you tend to have a greater well-being. Now, having supportive relationships, especially with one's parents, is important for developing a clear sense of self. Research shows that brain areas involved in emotions and decision making become much more connected as adolescents develop a stronger identity. Some areas that are typically like in this part, you have the prefrontal cortex and the cingulate cortex. Like I don't know if you remember, well, the prefrontal cortex is here on the front of the head, the front of the brain actually. So having supportive relationships with like parents, friends, peers, it helps develop a clear sense of self. And we also, like I mentioned earlier, the brain develops during this point, and then all these connections that we made in the brain also help adolescents develop a stronger identity. So that's that on the identity development. Now move on to social identities. Identity is shaped by group memberships such as race, ethnicity, gender, and sexuality. Ethnic racial identity, that's ERI, includes how individuals see their group and its role in their lives. Exploring and feeling proud of one's identity is linked to positive outcomes. So when you explore your identity and when you explore who you are and figure out who you are, that generally tends to lead to positive outcomes. So when they say that that adults are confused and they are just trying to figure themselves out, it's actually a good thing. You are meant to let them go through that. I think you're on that Erickson's stage. That's identity versus real confusion. So if their identity isn't developed, they'll have like confusion about who they are, and that's not what we are trying to like have happen. So it's actually a good thing when you explore yourself, like you explore your identity, you figure out who you are as a person and you're put in the world as a person. So it's a really solid thing. It's a really good thing, and it has positive outcomes. Adolescence is also gender. It's also when gender and sexual identities take shape. So during adolescence, this is when people figure out their gender, they figure out their identities sexually or romantically. In this note, it said that LGBTQ youth come out at younger ages. So the whole sentence was that adolescence is also when gender and sexual identities take shape, with LGBTQ youth coming out at younger ages. However, health challenges for LGBTQ youth remain or are even increasing. So even though people are coming out younger and coming out like at much younger ages and being themselves authentically more and more, there's health challenges and also like societal risks as well. So that's on social identity. Feeling connected to social identities supports well-being, and having a mix of identities can be beneficial. Brain areas that process social information change during adolescence. For example, the amygdala becomes more sensitive to racial cues, but having diverse friendships can reduce this effect. Attending diverse schools and forming cross-race friendships are linked to positive experiences. So in the Nigerian context, where most people are like, we're all of the same race. Sure, we have different skin tones, but I guess this can be applied in the sense of like colorism, like having friends who are not just dark skin, but maybe also light skin, maybe also albino, can help you understand people's perspectives, can help you understand different perspectives from different people's walks of life, and that can help. Also with gender, having friends who are male, who are female, who are non-binary, who are agender, who are beyond the binary, having friends who are from different walks of life with different identities, with a mix of identities as well, can be beneficial not only to them but also to you and to your own development as well. Um, Identity development is influenced by culture, politics, and history. An intersectional perspective, which we already talked about, having friends from different walks of life, helps explain how some young people experience challenges while others build resilience. So, social identity is basically like race, ethnicity, gender, and sexuality, and having friends or having members of identities is beneficial. And having this intersectional perspective, a perspective from different walks of life, can help explain why people experience challenges and can also help you build resilience. Now, moving on to the last subheading as self-direction. Adolescents start making choices that shape their future. Autonomy, purpose, and agency are key to thriving in adulthood. Finding independence while staying connected to others is important, and the desire for independence changes with age and situation. Cultural values also shape ideas of autonomy. with some cultures emphasizing independence while others prioritize community. American the American society prioritizes independence, prioritizes individualism. African communities prioritize community. Same with Asian communities as well. Other people in your society, in your neighborhood are very important to your well-being. That whole phrase, it takes a village to raise a child or something like that, is very real in the African and the Asian context. So while some cultures like the American culture, the Western cultures prioritize independence and they prioritize individualism and prioritize being on your own, cultures like the African and Asian cultures prioritize community and prioritize togetherness and being together. Adolescents develop the thinking skills needed to explore their goals and role in the world. Encouraging their independence and helping them find meaning supports their growth. Social development includes being identity and purpose, with body image being especially important for girls. I think we mentioned this in the past topic about eating disorders. Body image being particularly important for girls, especially in adolescents, is very, very real. They tend to be very preoccupied with their body. They might develop eating disorders, which can then, of course, increase rate of puberty for them, which is not particularly also a good thing. So in during adolescence, adolescence, teenagers develop a sense of self direction, or they start developing a sense of self direction. They helping them find meaning supports their growth. And if you have a teenager around you, it's good to like acknowledge that they might be confused and they might feel like they know what they're doing even though they don't. But just offering support and guidance is the most important thing. Now, emotional development involves self esteem, coping skills, and resilience, which grow during adolescence. Cognitive development includes reasoning, memory, and perception, all of which improve as the brain changes. These changes make adolescents better at thinking and learning, but also more vulnerable to stress. Now, while adolescents develop emotionally, they develop their self-esteem. It might be low, they might have low self-esteem, and they try and get it up high. Develop their coping skills, like how to cope with stress, how to cope with things in the world, and develop resilience as well. They also develop their reasoning, their memory, and their perception. How do they perceive things? How do they remember things? How do they figure things out? How do they like interact with the world and like understand like what is going on? And all these changes make adolescents better at thinking and learning, but also makes them a lot more vulnerable to stress. It makes them very easy to be stressed out, and it's which can lead to certain mental conditions like depression or even anxiety. Now, adolescence is a key period for brain growth with high flexibility that allows the brain to adapt to new experiences. This makes it a crucial time for shaping future identity, emotions, and thinking skills. Like we said before, during adolescence, the brain tends to develop, there's a lot of brain growth, there's a lot of flexibility, they can adapt to many new experiences. So this is very just like early childhood. Adolescence is another point where it's very crucial to also be there and to be guiding and to be aware of what's going on, because in this particular period in adolescence, this is where it's very crucial to shape their identity, to shape their emotions, shape their thinking skills. It's very crucial. It's very, very important. It's a very, what's a volatile stage, sort of. They've developed already from childhood, but they're still not fully formed. So it's still important to be there and to be guiding and to be supportive. So now let's do a little recap, a little TLDR, if you will. If you didn't get anything from this topic, you should get these. Adolescence lasts from puberty to the mid-20s, and it is a period of major development across cognitive, social, and emotional domains. For cognitive growth, processing speed increases, and key skills like executive function, which is like self-control, planning, social cognition, which is understanding others, and language abilities, like complex syntax and vocabulary, continue developing. Under brain development, it improves, and their self-regulation, decision-making, and emotional control also improve. Identity formation. Adolescents explore the question, who am I? Figuring out their place in the world. And early self-perception is fragmented, but stabilizes with experience. Supportive relationships help build a strong identity, and this is also linked to brain changes. Race, ethnicity, gender, and sexuality shape identity. This now links back to social identities. Feeling connected to social groups boosts well-being, while diverse friendships foster positive experiences. And finally, under independence and purpose, adolescents seek autonomy, set goals, and explore their roles in society, which is, of course, influenced by culture. Emotional resilience and cognitive flexibility develop, making this a crucial stage for future growth. So that's it for physical and mental development in adolescence. There will be a Quizlet attached to this video, and you can use that to revise a bunch of flashcards and all. You can use that to revise and remember things, the core things from this topic. I hope this helped. I hope this video helped you, and I hope you understand now the physical and mental development in adolescence. Thank you, and bye bye.